Hello, faithful viewer, and welcome back. Today we've got something quite special, and it's something that I wasn't supposed to do yet, but I haven't got a choice. We are running out of time, and I'm too busy. We're gonna rank the Zelda games prior to Tears of the Kingdom. This is gonna be a very tough thing to do because I don't like ranking these games. We're including remakes, we're including everything. Yeah. This is going to be hard. This is going to be immensely hard, even. Yeah. So. I don't even know where to begin with this. We're including spin-offs and everything. I'm going to say that I haven't I'm going to start off with what I haven't played. Four Swords I've technically played, but to be fair, I've technically played one of the BS games as well, but I haven't experienced it the way it's supposed to, obviously. I'm neither Japanese nor in my 30s. Or even 40s would have been preferable. Frankly, I haven't had a chance to play a lot of the more obscure things. I'm going to have to justify why I like or dislike a game. I'm surprised Tears of the Kingdom's on this list, but I suppose they've just kind of added it in as a way of future proofing the list. As much as it guts me to say I haven't played Four Swords Anniversary because Nintendo won't sell me it. Hint, hint, Nintendo. Although I am working on getting it working. Don't even know if I've still got the file. Because I was having problems with Citra. Of course I was. I haven't played for Tingle games, and that actually is a sign that I'm not committed enough. I'm just not, if I haven't played them. The other thing I haven't played, and this is going to shock a lot of people, except for those that know me, because they know that I have been avoiding this for many years, and then I went to go and do it the other day, and it didn't. I couldn't do it. It's a pain in the ass. I haven't played any of the free CDI games. And with that, I haven't beaten all of these games. Hell, I'm barely into Oracle of Ages and haven't played it in about 4 years. That's the level we're at. Yeah. I haven't played some of these games. Also, Triforce Heroes, although I'd love to rank that as low as I can. I'll point out that the reason I haven't played those last four is because they're fucking terrible, not because of any kind of thing. But yeah, we're gonna get into it. So, I think the best way of ranking these is to go one by one and explain what I like or dislike. If I try and go upwards with the list, it's going to get difficult. Yeah, I think that's the fairest way of doing it. So, we're starting out with Wind Waker, which is an easy S tier. I was actually talking about this in a Discord server earlier, and I adore Wind Waker in every way possible. Wind Waker is a near perfect game. The only issue with it is it's a bit too easy, and it doesn't exceed at most of what it does. It just does it really damn well and has very, very few faults. So, yeah, I don't really know what else I can say. The music is phenomenal, the characters are likeable, the dungeons are fun, and that is a key one. That's actually what I mean when I say the game's too easy. I thought about this, I think it was in 2020. Because you see, the way Wind Waker worked for me is, for years, it was a 20-minute demo on a disc that I couldn't reach the rest of the game. It's just impossible. Like, that was Wind Waker to me as a kid. But eventually I bought my copy. I bought my proper GameCube copy with with the attached Ocarina and Master Quest discs. Disc. I will point out, Master Quest isn't among these, which is a bit of a shame, as I would love to rank it along with everything else. But yeah, so that's that, Wind Waker. Four Swords Adventure, I'm not as negative on it as some people are, but I'm also not positive on it. So I'm going to put it in C tier. Here's the thing. It's a really fun concept, a multiplayer Zelda. But none of the 3 games that do it work. Four Swords, the problem with it is that you can't play it without other people. And that is why I've put it in not played. I have played it alone. Sort of. I played it by having a separate emulator up and basically throwing the second player around. And I hated it. But Four Swords Adventure, it's fun, but after you get to a certain point in the game, and it's not very far in, it's needlessly obtuse. And if there's anything I hate in games, it's being obtuse. I am aware that the HD remakes of the games are also to be ranked. I will do them. Because I rank all of them separately. The only one that I probably don't is Twilight Princess HD, which I don't think contains any substantial improvements. It didn't need to. Twilight Princess is actually near perfect. But we'll get to that. Yeah, I don't like Four Swords Adventure all that much. And that's not a hot take. I'm more positive than most people. But I will eventually replay. I might see if I can get some people involved. Though it's a bit of a pain in the arse. Yeah. The Minish Cap. I love this game. I really do. It's fun. It's pure fun. It contains a very charming world. It combines Ocarina of Time's elements such as Malon, for example, quite nicely in the world of the 2D games. It doesn't exceed A Link to the Past to me, but it does exceed the Oracle games as an improvement on them. And I would love to have Capcom back working on this series. The music in the game is brilliant. I love the idea of Diminish. Zelda is incredible in the game. She's very... What's the word I'm looking for? She's cheeky almost. She has this... It's another one of those games where you can probably tell that her and Link are probably a couple later in the timeline. Having grown up together somehow, because a princess can just hang out with a smith's grandson. Actually, no, I can see how that happened. I can. You know, the Royal Smith and all that. I'm very interested in Zelda tabletop games. Okay, so Twilight Princess. Equal with Wind Waker in every way. Fantastic dungeons, fantastic combat. The best combat the series has ever had, actually. The hidden skills make the game so much better. Fantastic story. Fantastic but weird as fuck characters. They're not the weirdest the series has ever had, but yeah. Love Twilight Princess. It is incredible. And the only way that I can ever choose between Wind Waker or Twilight Princess is because of whichever the last one I played was. And let me tell you now, I've played them both quite recently. Not much of them. I haven't had time to really go through all of the Zelda games like I wanted to. But give them both your time. They're fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Right, Phantom's Hourglass. Straight D tier. I don't like it. I like some elements of it. But ultimately, I hate the style of controls, and the Temple of the Ocean King sucks. Too tedious. This is going to end up being very different to the tier list I put out the other week on Twitter. Oh well. Yeah. So, I don't have a lot to say about Phantom Hourglass. That's how boring I find it. And then you got Spirit Tracks, which I'm going to put in C tier above Full Swords Adventure, because while I still don't like the game very much, I was a lot more positive on Spirit Tracks when I beat it in 2019, 2020 kind of time. The music's great. The world is charming. The characters are pretty cool. I love Old Man Nico. Like, I love that he's the same Nico as in Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass. But, and this is a big but, the Spirit Flute sucks. It just does. Spirit Tracks probably has my favourite incarnation of Zelda, but like, it even has my favourite villain. Which I've only just thought about that. Chancellor Cole is probably my favourite villain. But the Spirit Flute, it drags the game down massively. Like, or else it would be a B tier. Because it's such a pain in the arse to play. A game shouldn't be a pain in the arse to play. Under any circumstances. Speaking of a pain in the arse to play, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to Rhiannon most specifically. Skyward Sword. I don't know where to put it. I'm going to say B tier. I love Skyward Sword. There's a lot it does right. And in fact, I'm not done talking about Skyward Sword. Its story is phenomenal. Its music is god tier. And the characters are incredible. But combat's a pain in the arse in the game. I don't like slow combat. I think that's my problem. I don't like turn-based RPGs, and I especially don't like how slow Skyward Sword is. Now, we'll get back to Skyward Sword, but first, how to rank this next one. Ocarina of Time 3D. B tier. And it's not Ocarina of Time that's the problem. I know that ever since Sequelitis, everyone's been all like, oh, Ocarina's not that good. Oh, the water temple sucks. No, it doesn't. You just sucked. And believe me, I would know I sucked too. I still sucked in 2020. Arguably, I still suck now. Not to the level I did back then. The water temple is not that bad. But we will get to the water temple when we talk about the original. I don't like the 3DS version. There's some value to playing it, and that is Master Quest 3D. Because Master Quest 3D is a big challenge. Like, that is actually a challenge worth playing for any Zelda fan. I never thought I'd say that about Master Quest. Oh my god, what's wrong with you now? It's whinging about my friends network again. Okay. Here's the thing. I'm salty that they patched out so many glitches. I'm salty that they cocked up the Navi dive. I'm salty that they said they were going to preserve as many glitches as possible, and then they seem to make an active effort to stop you from sequence breaking. And I'm salty that in their efforts they managed to screw up the full roll. Beyond that, the game is Ocarina of Time. What more do you want to know? But all the replayability is gone. All of it. The replayability comes from learning to speedrun the game. And that is why I understand how people feel about this game, because I'd fallen out of love with Ocarina over the years. I played the whole... Oh no, Ocarina's overrated. And yeah, Ocarina is overrated. I've said it quite recently, actually. But not by as much, not for the same reasons. The reason it's overrated is because of its sequel, which is better in every way than it. But we are not there yet. We're not. We can't talk about that game yet. A Link Between Worlds. And this is where I start getting really controversial. Like, if you think my take on Ocarina 3D is hot, the amount of dick riding I see for this game is beyond a joke. I don't get why this game is so popular. A Link Between Worlds. C tier. But above both of these games, because the game is fun enough to play. But the item rental system kills it completely. There, I said it. It's a bad system. It shouldn't have been there. The fun of a Zelda game is going for a dungeon and getting an item to finish the dungeon with. A Link Between Worlds ruined it. And it was in preparation for Breath of the Wild, which, believe me, we will get to. Because my relationship with that game is incredibly complicated. And currently, this could change, but currently, it's on a high. But I can't. I'm not changing my mind on Link Between Worlds. You're lucky I've changed it on Breath of the Wild at the minute. A Link Between Worlds is inferior to A Link to the Past in every way, apart from the story. Hilda is a compelling villain. Yuga is fun. You know, compare that to Aghanim and Ganon, and yeah, I would actually rather play the end of A Link Between Worlds to the end of A Link to the Past. But in fairness, Ganon's castle fucking sucks in A Link to the Past. and it is a bad dungeon, to be honest. But yeah, A Link Between Worlds is not anywhere near my favourite game, and actually, we're not quite there yet, but we will be in a minute. Yeah. Okay. The original Legend of Zelda. Straight D tier. The worst Zelda game. Which is a good thing. It's a good thing that the first Zelda game is the worst Zelda game. It's a chore to play. But, for all that simplicity, it did some wonderful things, and I adore it still. I'm a little bit annoyed at the game in the minute because of the second quest. I think the second quest sucks. Don't think that's an uncommon opinion. Don't actually know. Don't really care. But combat in the game is tedious. Like, it's actually tedious. To the point where, like, I died 22 times in the Eagle in second quest. And I had only, like, sort of figured it out. And I was playing without a guide, to be fair. Like, I was trying to do the game as much without a guide as I could. But yeah, no, it's not brilliant now. And now I get to go absolutely fucking berserk. I'm going to be mean. I'm going to be absolutely horrible even. I'm going to be vile to this game. My nemesis. Majora's Mask 3D is everything wrong with modern Nintendo, attacking everything right with past Nintendo. It is a mess of a game. It is bullshit what they did to it. And what little it does right does not excuse how much it did wrong. Positives first. Okay, so the save system. Yeah, I can see how people would find it better. It's not really intrusive to me unless I'm playing a randomizer. However, like, no, wait, another positive. The time travel, the Song of Double Time, works a lot better in this game than in the original. And I'm not going to argue that. Waiting around helps no one. I don't agree that slowing down is the bane of exploration, but I do think yeah, it can get a bit much in Majora sometimes, but that's because people don't really think to play the inverted Song of Time multiple times. Majora 3D cocked up everything about the original. It cocked up Deku hopping, it cocked up Goron rolling, it cocked up Zora swimming, it cocked up the glitches, it cocked up the dungeons, it cocked up Clocktown. It cocked up everything to the point where... Okay, here's the best example I can think of. In the Deku Palace, there's a hole that you're supposed to go down that leads to the magic beans. They decided it was a clever idea to stick a hole outside of the palace, leading down to that grotto as well. Why? I assume that it's generally to give the player a quick way to the soft soil patch, but no. You're supposed to leave the hole, you're supposed to get caught, or escape, just get caught. Then you go check out what's to the right, because you haven't been able to explore it yet. Oh, you could, but you probably found a soft soil patch. Stop making your games so easy, Nintendo. Make them difficult for fuck's sake. Not ridiculously difficult, not Zelda 2 levels of difficult, nobody wants that. But don't do this. However, in good faith, I can't actually say it's worse than the original Legend of Zelda. However, Phantom Hourglass is better than it. Purely on account of it being the worst remake I have ever had to play. In fairness, I don't play a lot of remakes. As a rule, I'll play the original. That's partly down to emulation, and that's partly down to the fact that I'm just not interested in a lot of the games that get remade. At least Ocarina of Time 3D kept the spirit of the original to a degree. But not only does Majora 3D gut the game of its replayability, it outright fucks up everything. The only good addition was giving you something to do with the circus troupe mask, giving you an extra bottle with the hangover side quest. And Project Restoration only bumps it up to a low C tier. That's my take. That is my take on Majora 3D. I've been wanting to tear this game a new one for a long time, and I just don't want to play it again. Having said that, feel free to ask for it on a stream, if that is what you want. Hate the game. Hate it. And this isn't just about Nerul. Like, yeah, Nerul is the one that that pinpointed my issues, but he isn't the one that gave me the opinion. I knew I had issues with it. And also, bear in mind that when I beat Majora 3D, I hadn't beat Majora the original. Majora the original was a game that I was struggling with severely at the time. And my past with Majora is a bit complicated, as there was a time when I didn't like it that much, for the same reasons that incorrect people on the internet bring up. I'm joking, I don't actually think it's invalid, I just think that a lot of you are shit at the game. Yeah, Twilight Princess HD. Pure and simple, it goes over, you know what, it actually goes over Wind Waker as well. Like, I may as well talk about both HD remakes. Bear in mind that just because I played Wind Waker over Twilight Princess doesn't mean I actually rank it higher. Okay. These remakes, it's partly the fact that I don't speedrun either of these games. I'm sure if I did, then there'd be all manner of ways I'd have cocked that up. But what I do know is that the Swift sale makes Wind Waker HD so much more bearable, and Twilight Princess HD just straight up adds content. Like, it's not a lot, and I actually disagree with Amiibo as a practice, but you'll find out why that doesn't really matter as a thing to say. Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD are just straight up improvements. We really don't need to go any further into this. Right, time for controversy. Time for me to talk about a game that I was in the middle of doing a replay of for the channel. The chances are we're not finishing that series. I can't be fucked to play my SEMU file of it now. I just can't. And every time I try and load Elgato, I've been having problems. So, we're going to just talk about it. Breath of the Wild is a game that I have a very complicated relationship with. When it first came out, I thought it was the greatest game of all time. I bought the hype, I bought into all of it. It was a game that made me outright emotional at the time. Like the first time I visited Lon Ranch in the game. It made me feel the same thing as when I first stepped out on Hyrule Field in Ocarina of Time. That's not to say I didn't have issues back in 2017. I was under the impression there was actual crafting in the game. And all I had was this incredibly restrictive cooking system. But beyond that, I was loving the game. I adored it. I adored everything about it. Every day, I just played Breath of the Wild constantly. I was 14 when the game came out, and I bought it on day one with a Switch. I bought the collector's edition. I've shown on the channel before the statue I got with it. The story of the game at the time, I took no issue with it. The characters in the world, especially like Bolson, brilliant, fantastic even. The Hylian Homeowner quest and then the subsequent Tarrytown quest are incredible. I can't stress enough how great they are. But Breath of the Wild isn't a good Zelda game. It's not. People bring up Zelda 1 all the time, but it's free. Like, it's non-linear. Yes, Zelda 1 is about exploration, but it's about so much more than that. And also, trying to be like Zelda 1 isn't a good thing. Zelda 1 is non-linear because it's an obtuse piece of shit from the 80s that was needlessly hard at times. And that's fine. It's an NES game. I have different standards for the NES than I do for the Switch. Linearity is a good thing, and it needs to be part of Zelda. It does. Just gonna put you in here, by the way, because you haven't come out yet. Yeah, I'm sorry. I hated Breath of the Wild for a while. But I don't anymore. I don't. My relationship with this game has healed. But we need to talk about what's wrong with it. Divine Beasts suck. Shrines suck. Weapon degradation in Breath of the Wild sucks. Note that I specified there. The DLC of Breath of the Wild is hit and miss because Master Mode sucks. Except it doesn't always. Once you get a little bit into Master Mode, it's actually pretty good. Like, it's pretty fun actually, and it's quite rewarding to hunt down golden Lionels because you're far too powerful for your own good with your 4-star barbarian armor and your 4-star soldier's armor. The Trial of the Sword in Master Mode is badly designed bullshit. And I will not have my mind changed on that. It is terrible, and it should have been scrapped. Not Trial of the Sword in general. Just the way it works in Master Mode should have been drastically changed. More powerful gear should have been given to the player. Lizalfos can fuck off. And I shouldn't have to use an exploit to beat it. So, yeah. That is how it is, you know? So, where would I rank Breath of the Wild? depends when you ask me, really. My opinion on this game is a pendulum. It's like my opinion on The Last Jedi. Perfect analogy, actually. As of right now, despite my infuriation at Trial of the Sword in Master Mode, which, again, it should have been scrapped. The way it worked. Look, they should have completely restructured it. Despite the fact that Calamity Ganon is a fucking shit villain. Despite the fact that the story is another fucking open world game with a, oh, you've got amnesia, please recover your memories plotline. As if releasing on the same day as Horizon wasn't bad enough. In which it's basically the same thing. Like, no, that isn't fair. They didn't know. But, like, it's a ridiculous coincidence. No more open world games with amnesia. Just, that's all I'm asking for, really. Despite the weapon degradation in this game sucking. Specifically with the champion weapons. Which, with enough variety, they should have been the weapons that you got to keep forever. Breath of the Wild is a fucking phenomenal game. That's where I'm at today. That's where I'm at right now. Breath of the Wild is fantastic. And I am glad that it got a sequel. Because it might just fix what I've got against Breath of the Wild. And it looks like it will. Breath of the Wild goes in A tier. Right now. Link's Awakening, Nintendo Switch. How do I rank this game? How do I rank it among its contemporaries? I don't know. I really don't. Like, how do I rank it among, like, the other Link's Awakening versions? I think at the moment I'm more in love with the X than I am Switch. Because the Dungeon Maker sucks ass. Like, it's terrible. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, a Dungeon Maker's a great idea. What I don't know what they were thinking regarding is what the fuck were they thinking making it as limited as that? Like, yeah, it sucks the way it's implemented. Whereas Link's Awakening DX has the photo plotline, like the photo side quest. And that's fun. You know, that's actually really fun. And, you know, phenomenal. Like, that is great. So, yeah. I'm going to say Link's Awakening DX, Link's Awakening Switch, Link's Awakening. I will say a lot of what the Switch version does actually technically make it better, but I don't really care. I play far too many old games to care about something like that. Skyward Sword HD. This is where it gets a little bit weird. I said I'd go back to Skyward Sword and talk about things like its dungeons. I don't take issue with the dungeons of Skyward Sword. I do take issue with the backtracking, and I do take issue with the world design on the ground. Skyward Sword HD tackles the biggest problem I had with Skyward Sword, though. The fact that the motion controls are fucking terrible. And that sucks to say, because I have the Zelda remote. It just isn't fun. You know? It's too finicky. And don't get me wrong, it's a bit finicky on Switch as well. But like... Well, if you didn't know, my Switch Joy-Cons are the Skyward Sword ones. I was due an upgrade on my Joy-Cons. You know, the ones that I got with my Switch had drifted way back in 2018. Latest. It might have even been 2017. It actually may have been when I got Odyssey. But, yeah. Skyward Sword HD. Significantly better than the original. But it's still Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword HD goes in A tier, but low A tier. Here's where we go to the point of complication. The last you saw of me on the channel, I said that The Adventure of Link was terrible. I've changed my mind since what was only a couple of weeks ago. Because I'm now up to, I think I'm up to the 5th dungeon. I've learned. I'm having to use guides a lot for it, but you know what? I don't care. It's an NES game. If you felt bad about every NES game you used a guide on, you'd never get anywhere. The Adventure of Link is fun, but it's also bullshit. It's tedious at times. It really is. And you have to do a lot of grinding to really enjoy it. But do you know what else The Adventure of Link is? It's incredibly complex for an NES game. And it is just an NES game, and that should be considered when you rank a game. Obviously, I ranked the original, like, at the bottom of the ranking. But The Adventure of Link is so important. Like, it... I can't believe I'm actually positive on The Adventure of Link. As 2 months ago I despised that game with everything in me and feared it. And I still kind of do. Like, fear it, not despise it. It's a needlessly difficult game. But... okay, not difficult, merciless. But yeah. The Adventure of Link is a fucking fantastic game. I'm going to put it in B tier, because I'm feeling charitable today. On to A Link to the Past, the greatest 2D Zelda ever made. I'm going to tell you now, it's going in S tier, just below the joint second. A Link to the Past. What do I say about this game that hasn't been said already? It's phenomenal. It's fun. It's great. It's full of secrets. It makes for a fantastic randomizer. I beat A Link to the Past for the first time in the summer of 2019. It had just come out on Nintendo Switch Online, so I decided I was going to sit down properly and have a proper play sesh of this game. And I poured my soul into it for a very long time. I beat it a couple of hours before going to see it in cinemas. And I think it was It Chapter 2. Yeah, it must have been, if it's 2019. I was about to go and see it, and yeah, it's fantastic. A Link to the Past is fantastic, and I beat it. I at long last beat it. Shortly after that, I started my next playthrough. I spent a lot of time with a good friend of mine who, if he's decided to watch this point in the video, my good friend Sean, as I know he sometimes does watch. Hi, Sean. I started helping Sean out with A Link to the Past after he got his SNES Mini, which we have a little bit of an in-joke that I have a thing going with his SNES Mini, because I'll quite often, like, I poured a lot of attention onto that thing, especially in 2019 and 2020. But yeah, A Link to the Past is that game where every time I went over to his, we'd sit there for hours, and I'd teach him the game, and I'd properly, like, teach him. And it gives it a special memory for me. And it's not nostalgia. Not as such. I am a bit nostalgic for 2019 because it feels like it was so long ago now. 4 years all told. Nearly half a decade. Nearly half a decade since I left high school. Blimey. It's weird. But yeah, A Link to the Past is an incredible game, and so perfect. Its items, phenomenal. Its dungeon design, blissful. That's not to say there isn't a couple of duds. The Ice Palace in the game is frustrating as fuck, and as I complained about earlier, Ganon's Tower is fucking shit. Like, it's terrible. But I think I'm just soured because I tried to beat the whole game in one stream a long time ago. If the VOD exists on the channel, I will try and stick that in the cards. Yeah, Link to the Past is phenomenal. Now we're getting to two of the games that I have wanted to rank for a very long time. Officially. Ocarina of Time. How do you even rank this game? It's phenomenal. It's incredible. It's such an adventure. The best part is I'm getting to spend some time. It's like falling in love with Ocarina all over again. Because I've been playing Seal Palace just on my own, just, you know. And playing that game is like returning to the day that I first stepped foot into Hyrule Field. As a wee 6-year-old, I believe I was. The first time I ever left the forest. You see, my complicated relationship with Ocarina of Time is this. As a kid, I wasn't allowed to use the internet unsupervised. Standard practice, really. That's how it should be. You know, kids shouldn't be on the internet. Quite simple. Hypocrite, I know. Just stay with me on this. Because of the fact that I was a bit dumb as a kid, I couldn't beat the Deku Tree for a very long time. Couldn't even tell you what my problem was. I didn't really get the game all that much. I played it on Collector's Edition. And eventually I played a demo for the game on Smash Bros. Brawl. which was the first time I ever got to play as adult Link. The thing is, as a kid, I remember having a dream of leaving the forest. I ended up in, like, what I believe was Shrek's toilet. And I opened the door, and I found a Kokiri looking incredibly pissed off at me outside of it. With Mido at the front of the bunch, like... I don't know why I remember that dream so much. I was probably not even 5. But, like... Ocarina of Time is one of my earliest gaming memories. And, yeah, of course I have nostalgia for the game. It takes me back to a completely different time in my life. When I was a whole other person. To be honest, I was barely much of a person at all at the time that this game was first involved in my life. But it's more than that. When I was 9, I beat the game for the first time. I finally poured through it. Every weekend I'd get up. I'd go shopping with my mum and my uncle. I'd come home. I'd beg to be let on the GameCube. Well, the Wii. But the GameCube. And I'd chip away at more of Ocarina of Time. I beat Deku Tree, I beat Dodongo, I beat Jabu Jabu, I beat Forest, I beat Fire. I finally got to the Water Temple. And that probably took me longer than anything. And let's address it. The Water Temple isn't bad. Aside from one small thing. And it's not the Iron Boots. It's not. The problem is a lot of people haven't played the N64 version. Which means that the pause menu speed is a little bit slower on every other version, I think. If I'm remembering this rightly. I try not to play Ocarina on anything that isn't the 64 now. Or at the very least emulating the 64 on a modern piece of hardware. I have to play with a 64 controller and everything. I hate playing with a GameCube controller. But it would have made it feel slower than it actually was for a lot of people. But on top of that, there's a room where you raise the water level and a block rises and you're supposed to swim, you're supposed to dive under the block and go into another room which leads to a key. Problem is, it's not abundantly clear that there's actually something under that block. A camera angle could have actually helped out a lot there. But people most of the time just don't know about their dungeon map. That's why people struggle with Zelda games, because they don't check their dungeon map, and I was people once. So, yeah, Ocarina of Time. It's a memory that only gets better with age. Because I'm now learning to speedrun the game, and I love it. I love this game with all my heart. And one day, so will you. It'll go right under the second best. The joint second. And now, we finally get to the part that I've been waiting for. Is it any shock? I've been very vocal lately about how phenomenal Majora's Mask is. How do I even explain? How do I even explain why it's as good as it is? Majora's Mask is the one game in this series that doesn't feel like a chore to 100%. Doesn't feel like a chore to beat, which none of the more recent ones do. Like, Majora's Mask is the best story the franchise has ever had. it has the best characters in the series, it has the best stakes, and the time mechanic only improves the game, not damages. Yes, the save system is a bit rubbish. It would be nice if the game would let you save wherever you are. But it's not that intrusive. And the idiot that I saw playing the game the other day that took 2 whole 3-day cycles to beat the Great Bay Temple. What is your problem, mate? Like, come on, get a grip. Like, that idiot was James Rolfe. James Rolfe was bad at Majora. Look, I love the nerd. I love the nerd with everything in me. He's incredible. He's one of the greatest YouTubers there is. But his video on Majora's Mask was terrible. It just was. Yeah. 100% in this game actually feels fun, and it feels like there's a purpose to what you're doing. There's no crappy additional side quest to add to your 100% completion bonus. There's no crappy end reward. No. As your reward for doing all of the side quests, you get the Fierce Deity's Mask. A mask that allows you to kill Majora with absolute ease. What a reward. What a fucking reward. Phenomenal. I could sing this game's praises all day long. But I'm not going to, because my voice already is starting to hurt. The Oracle games are going to be ranked together, even though it's not entirely fair, as they are different. I'm going to rank them just above Ocarina 3D right now, because Oracle of Seasons, which I was chipping away at, and will continue soon, after the 5th dungeon or so, it might even be the 4th, starts to get more frustrating than fun. Meanwhile, Oracle of Ages, I've kind of forgotten. But to me, they're a set. They're a team. They go together. Actually, they were what I was waiting for to do this tier list. But yeah. I'm going to just put them in B tier. Leave them where they are. Cadence of Hyrule. That's going in S tier. I love Crypt of the Necrodancer. I love Zelda. It is the traditional Zelda game that I didn't think could happen with the Crypt formula. God tier. Is there anywhere else you can put it? Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Oh my fucking god. I could talk about the frame rate, but that's not the problem with the game. First of all, the gameplay is great. It's fun. It's really very, very fun. It combines the elements of Breath of the Wild that, like, don't suck, and incorporates them in a very, very fun game. Unfortunately, the story fucking sucks. Not so long before the game released, it leaked that the story wasn't what it should be. What it was supposed to be. What it had to be. What they advertised it as. The story was an Avengers Endgame style time travel story. Okay, that's not entirely true. It's not Avengers Endgame style. When I say it's Avengers Endgame style, I'm talking about portals. When I'm talking about the time travel, I'm talking about how it got there. This isn't a prequel to Breath of the Wild, and I don't want people saying it's canon. It's not. It's just not. It lost that right when it falsely advertised itself as a prequel. The story is terrible. It just is. Instead of a heartbreaking story about the champions and the tragic end they met, this game, which advertised itself as the events of 100 years earlier, decided that the correct thing to do would be to have a time travelling egg avert that fate. How do I even talk about this game? I remember we were fighting like all through the game, and then Hyrule Castle is under siege by Calamity Ganon's minions, and King Roarm makes a heroic sacrifice in order to save Link and Zelda. He sends Link with Zelda to basically, run to get away from the castle. And you see an explosion at the castle when it ends. When Link gets away with Zelda. I cried at that moment. I really did. I was actually tearing up at how emotional that was. He only went and fucking survived it. It's bad enough when Sidon came out of that portal. But what the fuck, man? Roarm should have died, even if no one else was allowed to. But no, for some reason, we made a Warriors game. The fucking prequel to Breath of the Wild. It should have been an anime, really. Star Fox got a prequel anime. So why couldn't Zelda? Come on. So yeah, I don't know how to rank this game. I really don't. So I'm going to say it's better than Skyward Sword, but it isn't good. It's B tier at best. And that's being very kind, because the gameplay really elevates it. The thing is, none of the fucking, champion descendants are fun to play as. So, they sacrificed the story for bad characters, basically. Not calling Sidon a bad character in terms of his character, I'm calling him a bad character in terms of his gameplay. Although he might actually be the one exception to that rule. I vaguely remember Sidon being pretty fun. The point is, they shouldn't have done it. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition is obviously the best version of Hyrule Warriors. It's also the one I spent the least time with, I think. Because I had, not long before getting Definitive, played the ever-living shit out of Legends. It was a very weird summer where my back was killing me, and I was spending an ungodly amount of time on my new 3DS XL. I'm going to say above Skyward, but below Age of Calamity, because the gameplay of Hyrule Warriors is just not brilliant, compared to its sequel. Right. Here's the final game to rank. Link's crossbow training. And it's not going to be a positive ranking. End on a low note. Here's the funny thing about crossbow training. It's the only Zelda game my mom likes. It's not a real Zelda game. It's not. And to add insult to injury, here's the biggest problem. Miyamoto got the ideas for Twilight Princess 2 scrapped for a fucking minigame. For a gimmick game. Miyamoto thought it was acceptable to throw out the idea of a sequel to the joint second best Zelda in order to create a fucking minigame that you charge for. And I'm not being funny. That isn't okay. Look, I haven't got all that much respect for Miyamoto anymore. The man was brilliant in the 80s and 90s. But ever since the Wii, he has done nothing but cause problems. Why? Why would you create a minigame? It isn't that good, even if you disregard that context. But the fact that it replaced a game that would have actually been good it's the worst game in the series for that reason alone. And I hate that I had to end it on a negative. Because I love this series with all of my heart. But Link's crossbow training is why Miyamoto shouldn't have creative control at Nintendo. It's why the man can't be trusted. It's the biggest problem I have with him. We lost out on a story where Colin might have actually gotten to do something incredible. Because let's be real, Colin was being set up as Link's successor. In terms of that, timeline. Link would have trained him to be a hero. And you know what? Maybe we could have broken away from Link for a game and had Colin as the playable character. But instead, we got a fucking minigame. And that isn't okay. I'm never going to be okay with that. Nintendo did this to us because that man had too much influence. And I know that I've just torn him a new one over it, and I know it's just a game, but crossbow training should never have happened. It was a bad idea. It was a flat out bad idea. It wasn't just poor execution, it was a terrible idea. And with that, we've concluded our tier list. I've had to tone down the amount of games that I put in S tier because usually it's brimming with games. Whereas it's about the same with B tier this time. yeah, I'm sorry I had to end on that rant. I really am. But Link's crossbow training is shit. So let's end it here. As of the day that this should be released, there should be 2 days remaining. In fact, no, why don't we go better than that? 3. 72 hours remaining. It's time for Tears of the Kingdom, guys. If there's another video before it comes out, it will probably be me talking about my relationship with the Zelda series in preparation for Tears of the Kingdom. And it will probably come out on the night before. Thank you all for watching as always, guys. I'll see you on the flip side. See you around, guys.